How much longer does Bill O'Brien have? Can Deshaun Watson succeed without Hopkins? And can the offensive line keep improving? Let's find out. What is going on, guys? Wade here with Tongue Scat Gaming and Sports, and here we are with episode number 3, the offense of the Houston Texans. We're going to take an in-depth look at the whole offense of the Texans and find out just how good this team really is and how good can they be. Hope everyone's having a great day today. If you are, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's kick it off with none other than head coach / general manager Bill O'Brien. Unfortunately, I share my last name with him, but it is spelled differently, so that's not too bad. A little bit about Bill. He's been the head coach of the Texans since 2014. He has been the GM as well for the past 2 seasons, taken over for Brian Gaines, who took over for Rick Smith a few years back when Smith had to step away to deal with his wife, who has now unfortunately passed with cancer a few years ago. He's the former associate of Bill Belichick from 2007 to 2011. He worked as the offensive coordinator, quarterback, wide receiver coach, so he's got that Bill Belichick scheme with him, unfortunately for us. And he's also been the head coach at Penn State for 2012 and 2013 before finally becoming the Texan head coach. So what are some good and bad things with Bill O'Brien? Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's got more bad than good. And let's dive into that. So we'll start off with the positives. Since becoming the head coach, Bob has piled together a 52-44 record, leading the Texans to 4 division titles in 6 years. So 52-44, that might not seem great, but here's the outlier though. We only have had one losing record, going 4-12 in 2017, which was Deshaun Watson's rookie season when he did get injured and tore his ACL. Other than that, we've been 9-7 or better. So one way or another, we're going to be 9-7. Bill O'Brien knows how to get us 2 games above 500. He's also done well drafting and evaluating talent, actually. So this might be surprising to some, but let me read you just a couple players that he's been able to draft. Okay, now whenever I said he's done well drafting and evaluating talent, there are plenty of people who are also in the organization doing that. But at the end of the day, the head coach has pretty much the end say on who he's going to take. So he was able to get C.J. Fedorowicz in the 3rd round of the 2014 draft, which finally gave us a competent tight end since the Owen Daniels days. Unfortunately, after just signing I think it was a 3 or 4 year extension the year before, Fedorowicz was forced to retire in 2018 as concussions just took over him too much. This guy had finally given the Texans a sense of hope that, we can finally have a reliable tight end. And if you see with many successful teams, that tight end is one of the quarterback's most trusted players. You look at Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. You look at Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham. Those guys were those important targets where if you get locked, if you get frustrated, just look to the tight end and he'll be able to bail you out. And C.J. Fedorowicz had finally given us that. Unfortunately, no more. In 2015, he drafted Benardrick McKinney in the 2nd round, who has become our leader when it comes to the linebackers. He's been counted on to be the force and strength of that group and is a great middle linebacker. He's done a terrific job in setting the tone, which is what you need when it comes to linebacking. In 2016, he drafted defensive tackle DJ Reader, who became a force on the defensive line, holding his own in run blocking situations. Not as good as passing, but run blocking he excelled in. Although we didn't re-sign him, the Bengals gave him a nice chunk of change, signing him to a 4-year, $53 million contract. In 2018, we were able to get safety Justin Reid out of Stanford in the 3rd round, who has become one of the best young safeties in the game. Justin Reid has been great for us, and continue to watch him in the NFL and pay attention to him, whether you're a Texan fan or not. He's going to be front and center Earl Thomas type player. And then last year, he took Tidus Howard with his 1st round pick, and many people mocked, and I really wasn't too excited for it. I thought they should have taken Andre Dillard or another player just in general. But Tidus Howard, however, graded out at a 65 according to Pro Football Focus, while Dillard mustered only at 52. Of course, things can change, but it is exciting to see this upside from a rookie at such a young age, of course. Also, another positive, he's going to cede play calling duties to former tight ends coach Tim Kelly. Although Kelly is young and inexperienced with calling plays, he will be able to focus all attention on working with Deshaun and the offense to find the best way to scheme. It is good that Bill O'Brien has finally ceded play calling duties. For now, we've, of course, if you know, Bill O'Brien has said this before in the past and has then taken back over play calling duties, but he just can't do it. That's too much. You need to have one guy out there whose whole job, his only focus, is just calling plays and getting with Deshaun and figuring out what is the best way to do. What do you like, Deshaun? What do you not like, Deshaun? How can we implement a better system to protect you and help you thrive? That is what the offensive coordinator should be doing. The head coach should just make sure everything just flows together. Also, he's got the best chin dimple in the league. Let's go. So negatives, though. There are plenty more negatives regarding Bill O'Brien. First off, his trading skills are subpar, abysmal, terrible. You can any adjective can describe his trading skills. He traded away both DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney, receiving 0 first-round picks. 0. He actually even paid $8 million signing bonus to move Clowney. So not only did we trade away Clowney and not get a first-round pick back, we also gave him $8 million to walk out the door. There's just so much to be said with Bill O'Brien when it comes to trading. We've only received 1 second-round pick. We got 1 second-round pick trading away both Hopkins and Clowney. 1. The Minnesota Vikings were able to get like 2 or 3 first-round picks trading away Stephon Diggs to the Bills. How do you not get at least a first or multiple seconds? Something. I mean something for trading those 2 players away. He's got so many head coaching gaffes. They are numerous with him. From not going for it on 4th downs, to mismanaging timeouts, to the play clock running out, having to waste a timeout in the first quarter of games because, we couldn't get the play call in time. Really? This has been frustrating. And also, we run on 1st down 70% of the time. Like, really? I understand wanting to establish the run, but you've got to mix it up, Bill. Being in Bob's doghouse is not good. Let's look at D'Onta Foreman and Kiki Cutie. D'Onta Foreman, 3rd round pick out of the University of Texas. He did great his rookie season before, unfortunately, he tore his Achilles tendon or ruptured it, something like that. And apparently didn't practice well enough. Bill didn't like him. He gets cut the very next year. Kiki Cutie. Unfortunately, Cutie, he's been a little banged up here and there. We still haven't used him correctly. We still haven't been throwing him into the lineup and giving him opportunities to succeed. Because Kiki Cutie is in Bill O'Brien's doghouse for whatever reason. Oh, also, apparently DeAndre Hopkins never had a relationship with Bill O'Brien. Your number 1 player, now in my opinion, DeAndre Hopkins was our most important player. Not Deshaun, not J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins. He bailed us out so many times. He succeeded with so many awful quarterbacks. He was our go-to guy. He was the most important player on our offense. And you don't have a relationship with him? Supposedly? The leadership just isn't there, obviously, when you need it to. He's been given the benefit of the doubt far too many times. And also, losing to Kansas City last year, 51-31, after you had a 24, whatever lead you had, it was 24 something. It was ridiculous. To lose by 20 points was just unacceptable. Of course, it's already been said multiple times. Money handling is not good either. Overpaying for veterans Randall Cobb, who last year had a 1-year, $5 million contract with the Cowboys, and then this year received a 3-year, $27 million contract. Also overpaying for David Johnson and Brandon Cooks and Eric Murray. You don't have to just accept the first deals that come your way. Does no one understand that? Does no one in that Texans organization understand that you can continue to barter with teams? You don't have to just, oh, well, we'll give you this. Okay, sounds good. And then letting the offensive line get to shambles was just atrocious. Deshaun Watson in 2017 and 2018, I don't know how he made it through. I mean, obviously he didn't. He tore his ACL, but still, you put him back there between that offensive line was just atrocious. And finally, it's starting to get better, but player development is obviously lacking, as guys who should have already improved haven't yet. So those are just a few of the many negatives and positives with Bill O'Brien. But now let's move to someone a little more positive. That's going to be quarterback Deshaun Watson, number 4. He's the former first-round pick out of Clemson in 2017, has been one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks, and he becomes a free agent in 2022 unless we sign him to a contract extension, of course. So some positives with Mr. Watson. He's led the Texans to the playoffs and division titles the past 2 years. He has elite arm talent when throwing the deep ball, accuracy-wise. Now, of course, he can't throw it as far as Patrick Mahomes, but if you want it to be right on your left shoulder, he's going to get it there. If you want it to be right on your right shoulder, he's going to get it there. This guy has extremely well accuracy, which is something that cannot be coached. You just have to have that. And watching him throw deep bomb to DeAndre and Will last year was just amazing. He's mobile, quick on his feet. He's an escape extraordinaire. I even retweeted him escaping a sack in the Bills playoff game a couple days ago because it was just so amazing how he was able to do it. If you haven't seen, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't seen it, go back and rewatch that little 5-second clip. It's just, it's mind-boggling how he was able to get out of there. So far, he's passed for 9,700 yards, 71 touchdowns, and 29 interceptions. He's also added 1,200 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground. So he's got a great dual threat capability and has been able to extend drives because of that, obviously. He's going to be one of the top earning quarterbacks once he signs his new deal. That is until Patrick Mahomes signs his. Also, he puts it all on the line when he plays. Obviously, a few years back, 2018, against the Dallas Cowboys, Deshaun was just trying to get a touchdown, diving into the end zone. Eventually, we won the game, but he had to take a bus ride to the Jacksonville game because he had a collapsed lung after that game. Also, he got kicked in the face during one of the, I think it was against the Bills. He got kicked in the face and was somehow able to throw a touchdown with his eyes closed, something along those natures. He's got toughness that you can't coach. He's going to put it all out on the line for you no matter what. And he will be a Super Bowl champion. Whether that's with the Texans, I hope it is. But one way or another, Deshaun Watson is going to win a Super Bowl. So a few negatives with him, though. He has taken way too many hits in his young career. He's been sacked a mind-boggling 125 times, losing 757 yards. In 2018, he got sacked 62 times. And like I said, he had to, take the bus ride to Jacksonville because of his lung. Also, he's had too many fumbles. He's fumbled 22 times, while he's only lost 7, which is pretty good. He needs to be more mindful when standing in the pocket and do a better job protecting the ball. and he also needs to be quicker at reading and progressing through routes. Too many times he keyed in on one man, Hopkins, and forced the ball. Now, that is a little on the play calling, of course, but that also falls on him as he needs to keep progressing and reading his routes. That also falls on, like I said, play calling and player development. Why hasn't Deshaun developed like he should in years 3 and years 4 in the NFL? So hopefully with this new system and Tim Kelly's offense, he'll be able to quickly find the open man and get rid of the ball. Now moving on to the wide receivers. We've got Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills, and Randall Cobb. So Will Fuller, he was drafted first round of the 2016 NFL Draft out of Notre Dame. He had his 5th-year option picked up and will become a free agent after this season. He has never played a full 16-game season, unfortunately. He's missed a total of 22 games in 4 seasons. Durability has been a tremendous hurdle for him. He scares me the most because I am worried that Will Fuller is going to command a bunch of money and someone is going to give it to him and is going to regret it. That is what I'm worried about. He's been terrific though when healthy, as he has 156 catches, 2,200 receiving yards, and 16 touchdowns. This guy is a burner. He ran a 4.32 40 at the combine, and him and Watson have shined when playing together, connecting on a plethora of deep balls. You got to go to YouTube and watch highlights of Deshaun throwing a Will Fuller. It is extremely impressive, and your jaw drops every time. I would love to see him finally put together a healthy season, but not sure even if he does, if the Texans will bring him back. And like I said, if this year he puts together a 16-game season, he could potentially be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL just with his speed and his deep ball capability, that he's going to want a lot of money. So it's a catch-22 right there. Now, Brandon Cooks, the receiver we traded a second-round pick for, he was drafted first round out of Oregon State by the New Orleans Saints in the 2014 NFL Draft. The Texans are his 4th team since entering the league, as he's previously played with the Saints, New England Patriots, and Los Angeles Rams. He's also been to the Super Bowl twice, but is 0-2. So, unfortunately for him, the year he played with the Patriots, he lost to the Eagles. And then the very next year, he played with the Rams and lost to the Patriots. So this guy just has no luck, unfortunately. He signed a 5-year, $81 million contract extension with the Rams in 2018. So the Texans owe him $47 million over the next 4 years, although only $8 million is guaranteed. So they can get out of his contract next year if they like. Cooks is also playing with fire when it comes to concussions, as he's dealt with concussions last year and played in only 10 games because of it, and he has reportedly had 5 concussions in 6 years. So, once again, we traded a second-round pick for a guy who has concussion problems. We already have had a former player have to retire because of concussions. So now we're going to bring him in to take over DeAndre Hopkins' spot. When healthy, though, he's been great, as he's piled up 402 receptions, 5,700 receiving yards, and 34 touchdowns. Before last year, he had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's still young, as he's only 26 years old. He still has a chance to be a playmaker and a number 1 receiver. And he's also a burner, just like Fuller, as he clocked in at a 4.33 40 at the combine. Moving on to Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills was one of the players the Texans got back in the deal for Laremy Tunsil. He's been in the NFL as a 5th rounder since 2013. Once again, he is a burner, as he ran a 4.38 40 at the combine. Are you finding a pattern for Bill O'Brien? So it looks like he's wanting to bring in guys who are fast and make a fast-moving offense, which I think is what we should have done in the first place, as Deshaun's mobility will allow the players to get open, run quickly, and dump it off. This should definitely be a college-style offense, quick-hitting offense. We should be putting up 30 points a game. No problem. Deshaun is too talented not to. He rewarded the Texans by playing in 13 games last season, and he compiled 40 receptions, 561 yards, and 4 touchdowns. One problem, though, is that he can become a free agent after this season, but the Texans could save $7 million in cap space if they release him before the season begins. So the Texans are already a little cap-strapped, And there's rumors of them wanting to bring in Eric Reed or Larry Warford. And one way for them to get rid of, or to make room for bringing in one of those guys, would be to release Kenny Stills. However, if they release Kenny Stills, that means Will Fuller is the only wide receiver who has any type of chemistry with Deshaun. Randall Cobb, our new signing, is the oldest and however slowest of the group, as he clocked in at a 4.46 40. That was back in 2011 though. He's 29 years old. Still a reliable slot man for years with the Green Bay Packers. He feasted off of Aaron Rodgers slinging the rock. Last year, he played with the Cowboys on a $5 million deal and produced so good that the Texans decided to give him a 3-year, $27 million contract with $18 million guaranteed. The Texans probably could have given him 2 for $12 and he would have been okay with that. This was pretty much regarded as a huge overpay, as, like I said, the market for Cobb wasn't anywhere near this. For his career, though, Cobb has 525 receptions, 6,300 receiving yards, and 44 touchdowns. He should be a productive and reliable target for Watson as long as he stays healthy. Moving on to the tight ends, as we have Darren Fells, Jordan Thomas, Jordan Akins, and Kahale Warring. So Darren Fells, he was known as an inline run blocker throughout his career. He's 33 years old and then exploded onto the scene for 7 touchdowns, giving Watson a reliable target in the red zone. The Texans re-signed him to a 2-year, $7 million contract and will hope that he can lead the younger guys and be a reliable target when Watson gets in tight situations. So Darren Fells, no one saw this coming, and I gotta say, it was pretty awesome. Just once again seeing Darren Fells over and over and over in the red zone, standing there catching a touchdown. He only had 33 receptions last year, but he's a safe, productive target that Deshaun can look to. Tight end number 2, Jordan Thomas. Not much to be said here. He was a 6th round pick in 2018, and while he did okay his rookie season going 20 for 215 and 2 touchdowns, he was placed on IR to begin the 2019 season and ended up catching only 1 pass for 8 yards. He's obviously facing an uphill battle to stick around any longer, and more than likely probably will be cut before this season begins, or once preseason is over with. Jordan Akins, he's a 3rd round pick in the same draft as our boy Jordan Thomas. Akins has grown each year, ending the year with 36 catches, 418 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Prior to Fells' signing, Akins was set up to be the go-to tight end, and he can still get there under the leadership of Darren Fells. Although age is against him as he's 28, he is entering his 3rd season. Kahale Warring, not much to say here. He's another 3rd round pick, this time in the 2019 NFL draft. He didn't play a single down last year as he had a concussion that he received during the Green Bay Packers scrimmage, and they just placed him on IR throughout the season to save him and just to learn and progress. The Texans are hoping he can stretch the field and give Deshaun a vertical threat tight end to move the ball down the field. Obviously, this year it is extremely important he can stay healthy and at least get into an NFL game. Overall, not much can be said about this group as none of them have had a productive season aside from Fells. Watson also doesn't target his tight ends much. A lot of this can be because of Bill O'Brien, as he primarily ran through his receivers until he got to the red zone. So hopefully Tim Kelly can distribute the ball around and be more versatile and help Deshaun find other reliable targets who can be extremely productive. Moving on to the running backs, we got David Johnson, Duke Johnson, and then fullback Cullen Gillespie. So David Johnson. If you told me in 2017 the Texans traded away Hopkins for David Johnson and everything else, all the picks and all that stuff, I would have been disappointed, but not nearly how I feel now. So why is that? So if you don't know David Johnson, David was a 3rd round pick for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2015 NFL Draft. He produced well for a rookie, but in 2016 he set the league on fire, rushing for 1,239 yards and 16 touchdowns. But it gets even better. He caught 80 passes for 879 yards and 4 touchdowns. This guy won people so many fantasy football championships that year. To make things even better, before the 2017 season, he had one goal: let everyone know draft me in fantasy football because I'm going to put 1,000 and 1,000. So that would be 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. It has only been done twice, though, as Roger Craig was the first to do it in 1985, followed by Marshall Faulk in 1999. Also, Christian McCaffrey actually accomplished that feat last year in 2019. So it's now been done 3 times. And then, unfortunately for him, disaster struck as his first game in the 2017 season against the Detroit Lions. He broke his wrist and missed the entire season. He did bounce back, though, in 2018, putting up a combined 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. So after a productive enough bounce-back season, he signed a 3-year, $39 million contract. Unfortunately, last year he missed 3 games, and he only had 300 rushing and 300 receiving yards to go along with 6 touchdowns. Just like many other running backs before him, he got the big payday and crapped the bed. Now, a lot of this can be also behind the Arizona Cardinals offensive line, who are not very good and were playing with a rookie quarterback and rookie head coach. He's now 28 years old and has a lot of doubters. Now, I'm still holding on hope and was excited when we traded for him. I just wasn't excited what we traded away, obviously. Can he still reach 1,000 and 1,000? Probably not, but that doesn't mean he can't be productive. And the O-line, the Texans O-line, is in a much better situation than the Cardinals. I am excited to see what he's got left for us. So I will be... I'm excited. I think he's going to be better than a lot of people think. He just left a bad taste in the mouth for many fantasy football people and Arizona Cardinal fans and Texan fans because we traded away Hopkins. That he's got a lot of people down him, and I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. So moving on to Duke and Cullen. Duke is a former third-round pick out of Miami by the Cleveland Browns. Best known for his small stature and excellent hands, he has excelled as a third-down running back. During his time in Cleveland, he put up 1,200 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, while through the year he had 235 receptions, 2,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The Browns awarded him with a 4-year, $16.3 million contract before the 2018 NFL season. He then got traded the following year for a 4th-round pick after Lamar Miller tore his ACL. Unfortunately for Duke, the Texans greatly underutilized him as he had career highs in rushing attempts at 83 and rushing yards at 410 and chipped in 2 touchdowns. So, not too bad. But through the air, he only had 44 receptions and 410 yards, which was his lowest mark since entering the league. So we brought in Duke Johnson to be a third down running back who can give Deshaun a reliable target to throw to, and he only gets 44 receptions. There were so many times I was at the screen saying, Duke needs to be on the field. Why isn't Duke on the field? It was just mind-boggling. Hopefully, the new offensive coordinator will understand how you are supposed to use him, because as a receiver out of a backfield, this guy was a beast. If used properly, him and David Johnson can create a powerful 2-headed backfield. And then also, the Texans have Cullen Gillespie, a fullback/special teams ace who played his career at Texas A&M and was the 12th man his senior season. Last year, he contributed heavily on special teams, and look for him to continue to be heavily involved on special teams and maybe get more offensive snaps. So moving on to the most important group of this unit, the offensive line. The O-line, led by left tackle Laremy Tunsil. He's a former first-round pick out of Ole Miss by the Dolphins, the player the Texans traded all their first-round draft picks for, and then made the highest-paid left tackle in football. He signed a 3-year, $66 million contract with $57 million guaranteed. Still, only 25 years old, he's the best lineman to have blocked for Deshaun Watson and plays one of the most important positions in football. He graded out as PFF's 17th overall tackle out of 88 individuals. So unfortunately, this is more money than I was hoping the Texans were going to pay him. They had to pay him whatever he wanted because Bill O'Brien is clueless and gave all the leverage to Laremy Tunsil. One thing for Tunsil to fix, is going to be his false starts, as he had 14 his first year with the Texans. That is way too many false starts, so he really, really needs to improve his false starts. and cut those down. I think he will. It was just a outlier year, hopefully, of course. Moving on to left guard, that's going to be Max Sharping. Max was drafted second round out of Northern Illinois in 2019 NFL draft. He was inserted into the starting lineup after just 2 weeks. While he was a left tackle in college, he had to quickly adapt to a new position and did well enough to earn PFF's 51 first best guard. With a full NFL season under his belt, there's reason to believe he can improve enough to be a starter and someone you can rely on to keep Deshaun upright and provide holes for the Johnsons to run through. If he can grade out to around 35-41 next year, according to PFF, this line will be dramatically improved and Deshaun's play will rise higher than it's ever been. Now let's move on to the center and right side of the O-line. The center is manned by Mr. Nick Martin. Nick is the younger brother of standout offensive lineman Zach Martin. Nick was drafted second round in the 2016 NFL draft, and though he missed his entire rookie season, he has improved every year since. Because of this, the Texans re-signed him before the 2019 season, giving him a 4-year extension worth $34.1 million. While he hasn't taken any giant leaps, he has been steadily improving each year, and that's really all you can ask for, especially with the mess the Texans found themselves in. Nick was the guy that the Texans looked to as a veteran source. That's how bad the Texans' offensive line was the past 2 years, when Nick Martin was our go-to guy. Zach Fulton is the right guard, as he was drafted by the Chiefs in the 2014 NFL draft as a 6th rounder. He's primarily been a plug-and-play guy throughout his career. You'd rather him play for a game or two because of an injury, not really be the go-to starter. The Texans signed him to a 4-year, $28 million contract. This is the main area they could/would need to upgrade, which they could do with the player they drafted in this year's draft. So who is that player? That player could be Charlie Hick. The Texans drafted Charlie in the 4th round out of North Carolina, where he played left tackle. The most feasible spot would obviously be at right guard, but to stick in the NFL, it's better to be adaptable and be able to play wherever needed. His father is a former 15th overall pick, Andy Hick, so Charlie has been able to rely on his dad as well to coach and shape his game. And moving on to the right tackle spot, which is manned by Tidus Howard. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, Tidus was a 1st-round pick and ended the year better than Andre Dillard. These guys will definitely be compared and talked about their entire NFL career, especially if one does dramatically better than the other. Tidus ended up playing in only 8 games his rookie year, but showed steady improvements each game until he finally got placed on IR with a knee injury. He partially tore his MCL in week 6, but his season ended after week 12 as he couldn't take the pain anymore and just wasn't playing up to his ability. So there are definitely reasons to be excited for him. So hopefully a second offseason will help him as he continues to adapt to the NFL after coming out of a small college. So with that being said, as a Texan fan, there are finally some reasons to get excited again regarding this offensive line. After watching some of the worst offensive line play for the past few years, they are slowly developing into a formidable front. Just like with any position, the key to success is player development. Bob is responsible for bringing in the right coaches to do that and having players who are willing to put in the work day in and day out to succeed. Deshaun cannot and will not survive another season getting sacked 40-plus times. Bill has to understand that. So that finally brings us to our end. So offensive takeaways. Bill O'Brien has finally, after long last, reached the boiling point, the edge, and any other acronym you want to use to describe it. For me, if he does not reach the Super Bowl, he must get fired. I don't care. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Reaching the playoffs and winning the division titles don't matter anymore. Having Deshaun back there, it's automatic that we should achieve those. The only way I could see Bill O'Brien not getting fired by not reaching the Super Bowl is if we make it to the AFC Championship game and we at least show that we belong. That's one problem that is really annoying with Bill, is the way we lose. These are just dumb ways to lose, just idiotic ways, and it gets to you. It gets to you. I don't care if we go 10-6 this year and win the division and we lose in the playoffs in the first round. Bill's got to go. He's got to go. It's clear with this wide receiver core we should be doing one thing, and that is scoring in the bunches. Turn this offense into a high-scoring college offense. Some of the Deshaun's top players are when the pocket breaks and he rolls out and finds a receiver 30 yards down the field, wide open. With all these fast receivers we have, there is no reason we shouldn't be a quick-tempo offense. I can't stand whenever we get a 20-10 lead in the third quarter and we just start running the ball. First, second, third down. We run the ball and then punt. No, that's not how you win games. You need to put fear in the opponents. That once you get 20-10, oh, that's not good because it's about to be 27-10. Then it's about to be 35-10. We need to be striking every single chance we get. Our offense is too fast. Deshaun is too good to just be handing the ball off every single play. We finally have a decent enough O-line to incorporate play action and rollouts, and our running backs are good enough and experienced enough to handle the workload. A month ago, I was not looking forward to this season. After reviewing and reading and studying, I'm hyped for this season, and so should you. And hopefully we do get to play football, as the NFL released the schedule a few weeks back, and the world is slowly, at least America, is slowly getting back to everyday things, as Friday in Texas, restaurants could now go to 50%, and bars and all that stuff, malls were open to like 25%. So we're slowly getting back to life. Make sure you tune in next week, as it's going to be the defensive takeaways, and I'm going to break down the schedule and let you know how I think we're going to do this year. That will all be next Sunday. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think about Bill O'Brien, the players, what you think our predictions will be for next year. This has been Way with Tongue Gaming Sports. Don't forget to begod above all. I'll see you next time.